Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. We're going to go over workflows and business events. I had done this probably a little over a year ago and wanted to kind of do a refresher and an update to it. So have kind of retooled it a little bit, and hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it and at least see the potential possibilities of what workflows and business events can do for your business. So going to get started so we're going to show a light to medium complexity workflow. And this is going to inject a inspection step into the purchase receipt screen. So when you're doing receiving of vendor received material, sometimes you may want to have an inspection step. And we're going to basically create some custom attributes that we're going to use to drive the process, the workflow. And then once we get all of the workflow done, then we're going to add a business event to trigger an email that's going to get sent out to an inspector, and then give some, pass fail buttons that they can interact with in the purchase receipt screen to pass or fail that receipt. And then kind of how that's going to look like. This would be the normal purchase receipt screen. When you come in, you see, depending on how you have your configuration set, it can come in on hold and you get the remove hold button. What we want to do is kind of take that out of the mix, change the out of the box workflow to show an inspection request button that will then allow us to interact with the screen and these custom attributes to drive those business events. So I'm going to minimize that and we're going to jump right into the demo part of it. Nathan, can you see my Acumatica screen just to make sure?
Yes, sir, we do. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up some custom attributes in the system. And these are going to be used to create some settings. And let me just show you that screen real quick. So I'm going to pull this down here. So you'll see I've got one that's working, and we're going to go through it on a different setup so you can see it. So I have a couple of user-defined fields here. One's called inspector and one is called inspection status. And I want to put those on my purchase receipt screen so that I can then use this fail status to drive some workflow in the background. So we need to go to attributes and we're going to set those up. So I'm going to set up the first one. It's going to be inspector. And I'm going to make this a selector type. And I'm going to add my EP employee table, which is going to be my employees table, so that I can interact with an existing list of employees. And what I want to do is use my account CD, which is the employee ID. And that's all I have to do for this one. So this is going to allow me to interact on that custom attribute with an existing employee lookup table, and then be able to assign that into my purchase receipt screen. And then I'm going to add the second one, which is going to be inspect status. And I'm going to make this one be a list of values. And I'm going to define those as pass. And I want that one to be the first one. And I want fail to be the second one. And that's all I need to do for setting up the attributes for this piece of it. And I'm going to Hang on a second. There we go. We're going to go back to the purchase receipt screen. And now I'm going to add those attributes to my purchase receipt screen. Just word of warning, two things. One, you have to have rights to be able to do what I'm fixing to do. And you typically want to have somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, because at the end of the day, we're going to publish this workflow as a customization. So there are some pieces, while it's easy to do, it is a customization, and usually you want to test customizations in a sandbox or development workspace first before you add it to your production site. And if you do publish it to your production site, when you do that, publishing process will restart the application, the Acumatica application, which will kick off users that may be on the system. So you want to do that in a kind of controlled way, and usually using a maintenance type window. So I'm going to come up to my customization tool, and I'm going to select Manage User Defined Fields. And now I'm going to add those two fields to my purchase receipt screen. So I want inspector, and I'm just going to have it in the first column, first row. And then I'm going to add the inspect status. And I just want it underneath the inspector. So first column, second row is just fine. And then once I have those two in, when I hit the back button, it's going to add a user defined field tab now to my purchase receipts. And you'll see I now have inspector and inspection status in my purchase receipt screen. So that's exactly what I want. And now I can start creating the workflow. And you'll see the base workflow is already being called. So it has my remove hold button, because this receipt is on an on hold status. So the out of the box workflow is driving that process. And you'll see I have some other selections that I can interact with. So that's the out of the box workflow being generated to turn off or on different things that I can interact with at this receipt, at this status and level. So we're going to now inject a custom workflow that's going to modify this workflow and make it a little bit better and add that inspection step. So I'm going to go to the show state diagram. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. And we'll just blow it up. So this is the out of the box workflow. And you'll see I have kind of, this one's not as busy as some, because I only have 4 steps that I can, states that I can interact with. But I have an initial state, it puts it on hold automatically. And then from the hold, I can go to a balance state or back to hold. And then from the balance state, I can go to a released state. So I want to inject a custom workflow in here to add that inspection step in. So I'm going to go in and create a custom workflow, and I have some already out there, but I want to go ahead and create a new one. And I'm just going to call this PCB workflow. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to now go into that PCB workflow. So this is where it's actually opening up our customization project editor. And again, this is where, you want to make sure you have the right people able to interact with the screen and be able to change and modify, because it is a customization. At the end of the day, I am going to have to publish this into the customization project. So what I want to do is I want to click the add workflow button. And that add workflow is going to give me a pop-up screen that's going to allow me to copy from an existing workflow. So I want to copy the standard return workflow, and I want to use the default method. And then I'm just going to call this inspection. and you'll see it's going to add that in. And as a default, it's not going to be active. So what I need to do is make this one active and make the original one inactive, because if I don't, they're gonna clash. So I only want one RT workflow active at one time. So I'm going to make my new custom one the active one, and I'm going to deactivate the out of the box one. So you'll see it's showing me that it's a default workflow type, it's an inspection, and it's copying the base workflow of a return, or being able to bring in product into my system. So once I have that, then I'm going to go up to my screens and I'm going to expand that. And because I created entered the customization project editor from the purchase receiving screen, it is already added that screen to my customized screens list. If I needed to interact with other screens, I can just go add those as additional screens. But it just makes it nice because I'm in context in that screen, it knows that, and it already loads that for me. If you started from a scratch customization project, you would have to add that manually. So I'm going to go into actions now, and I'm going to create a couple of actions that are going to then allow me to, this is what's going to start triggering that workflow, that custom workflow. So the first one that I want is just the inspection request. So this is going to be when I'm in the initial stage, when I create a receipt, I want it to start that I want an inspection done. So the first thing that I'm going to have available is that inspection request button. And I'm just going to let it stay the display name. And then I have to change a few things to make it make the workflow aware of this action. So instead of running a report, I want this to be an action type of workflow. And then on the categories, I want this to be an action. So I'm not adding a report, I'm not adding an inquiry, I'm not adding any processing or printing and emailing. I want this to trigger an action to do something. Kind of think of it as an if then else. If this is the statuses that I'm working with, then I have the ability to do other things. So I'm just going to set that to action, and then everything else is okay. And I want to just hit OK. And that's going to create my first action. And then now I'm going to create two more. One, I want a button that is going to be a pass button and a fail button. So I'm going to create inspection pass, and I'll just let it keep that name. And again, I want to use the action type of workflow, and the category is going to be action. Everything else is okay. I don't have to change anything. And then I'm going to add the last one, which is going to be that inspection fail. Same thing on it. I'm going to do workflow, and my category is action. But you can see within my actions, I have a lot of different things that I can do. I can interact with side panels, I can create records, I can search records, and I can run reports. So a lot of power in this new workflow engine that we have. So once I have my actions, then I want to go back to my workflow, and I want to go to my inspection workflow now, and I want to create a new state. And think of states as, for lack of a better term, status in this instance. So you can see I have an inherited transition, which will allow me to take this to an on hold state in the beginning. This order receipt is going to be on hold, but I'm going to hide the remove hold button and instead have it to where it's going to show that inspection request. So what I want to do is I want to add a state. So I'm going to click the add state button. And then it's going to give me an identifier. And the identifier you'll see here on my initial inherited one is a dash. If I go to on hold, it's H. If I go to balanced, it's B. And if I go to released, it's R. So I want to create another one, and that identifier is just a letter identifier for my state. And I'm going to create this with the identifier Z, just to drop it at the very bottom of the list. And then in the description, I'm going to call this inspect, and we'll just hit OK from there because that's what I want. So it's going to add an inspection state now, and I can do everything from this screen, but I'm going to pull up the diagram view again, just so that you can see that I can do some interactions and create. The next step would be to do transitions. So it's that if then else logic. So I'm going to do that from the diagram view, but I could do it from this screen as well. I think it's easier to do it from the diagram view, actually. So you'll see now I have this inspection yellow box here. And what I want to do is when it's on hold, I want to call that inspection request action to then push into my inspect, which is going to have my pass or fail actions, which is then going to either, if it's failed, it's going to come back to hold. And if I pass it, it's going to come over to balanced. So what I can do is I can come up to the on hold, I hit the ellipsis button, and I hit add transition. And in that add transition, I'm going to be able to, oh, there we go, there we go. I'm going to be able to go interact with the three actions that I just created, that inspect request, the inspect pass, inspect fail. Or if I needed to, I could create a new one right from this screen. So you could do everything from the diagram as well. So I'm going to type in inspection request. So you'll see I have my three actions that we created. These are the custom ones. So I'm going to say I want to go from inspection request, and I want to go to inspect. And I don't need a condition in this instance. So I hit OK, and you'll see it now creates the inspection request action under my on hold. And now I get a conditional line to my inspection step. So now I want to tie my pass and fail to back to the on hold for fail and balance to pass. So I come down to my inspect, and I click the ellipsis, and I hit add transition again. And now I want to type inspection again. And this time I want to say if it passes, then I want to go to balanced. So pretty easy so far, not real hard. And then I want to add the last one where if it fails, I want it to go back to the on hold. So I just select my inspection fail, and then I go back to on hold. And when I hit OK, you'll see it's all wired up now. I have my inspection pass, inspection fail, and inspection request. So everything is in alignment with how I want it to flow within my workflow. So I can hit save and go back to my inspection, and you'll see in my inspection now I have those two transitions. And again, I could have done it right from this screen. If you get comfortable here, you don't have to go to the diagram. I'm a visual person, so it just makes it easier for me to kind of see how it all interplays from that diagram view. So you'll see I have my inspection pass goes to balance, inspection fail goes to on hold. So the next thing we want to do is on the state, when I'm in the actions tab. So if I'm on my on hold state, I want to remove that that on hold button. So what I can do is I can come over to my actions tab on the on hold state or status, and I can uncheck that duplicate on my toolbar. So when I do that, that is going to remove that. It's still going to be on my actions menu, but I'm not going to see the button in the state that I have. But what I do want to do is I want to fully qualify my inspection request action now. And on success in Acumatica Speak for a button is it's going to highlight that button green. Warning is going to be yellow and danger is going to be red. So I can interact with that button to kind of drive some conditional kind of messaging with the button colors. But that's what's going to set that. So once I have that, I'm just going to hit save. And now I've created the transactions. And now what I want to do, I need to interact with my transitions on the inspection step, because if I hit pass, I want to add my inspector employee ID and then also change the attribute status from nothing to pass or fail. So if I go to inspection pass, you'll see now I have at the bottom here, I have a grid that says fields to update after that transition is executed. So I can now come in and find that inspection status, and I can interact with that status by clicking the schema. If I don't hit schema, it's going to be a free text here. So I could enter whatever, and it's likely going to fail because I've set the condition to be a list of values for that attribute. So I always want to do kind of from schema on attributes that are pulling list, and you'll see I get my pass and fail values there. So on pass, I want to set the value to pass, and that's all I have to do. And then on fail, I want to add that same status, but this time I want to interact and make it fail and save it. The other thing that I want to do is I want to go back and I want to update my employee ID or the inspector to be a specific employee. And in this case, I'm going to hard code it to EP1672. Copy that. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to add that same employee for the fail as well. Now you could have somebody select that from the list in the values, but I want the workflow to set it as we're doing it. And I'm going to set that to employee 2, who is Maxwell Baker. So from a workflow standpoint, I've defined everything that I want to do in that workflow. So I'm updating fields when these buttons are pressed, and I've set the kind of logic flow, kind of the if and else structure. When certain things happen, other things can happen. And I've built all of that in my workflow editor. So now what I want to do is I actually want to publish that into my Acumatica system. And again, just word of warning, be careful. So I can just come up and hit publish and publish current project. And what that's going to do is it's going to now publish these changes into Acumatica, into the customization layer, and then make those available to my screen. And this takes a few seconds or minutes to accomplish. So we're going to let that go for just a few minutes here while that's going. Does anybody have any questions? And I don't know, Nathan, are you watching the background to see if any questions are coming in?
Yeah, watching. I don't see any open questions at the moment.
Okay, perfect. If you can, just holler out and let me know that there are and what they are, and we'll try to answer them in live time. So like I said, this takes just a couple of minutes to finish. And then once it does, it's going to give me a close, and then we'll back out of this and get to the purchase receipt screen. And then that purchase receipt screen, once we refresh the browser, should now have our new workflow engaged. And then once this finishes, we'll add a business event that will trigger an email to occur when that inspection request button is engaged. It looks like we do have a question. Can you release the item even if you did not inspect it? Yeah, so the remove hold is still going to be in the action menu, and we'll show that, Patrick, when we get there. So it just finished. It just took a couple minutes to do that. Now that's been added, I can close my inspection pane. I can close that, and I want to refresh. If you watch, this button is going to change from remove hold to hopefully, if we did everything right, to inspection request. There we go. Yay. So now we know our custom workflow is being called into the system. So you'll see I still have the remove hold button there, Patrick. I just removed it from the toolbar. So I wanted inspection request to be the highlight, not remove hold, but I could have had both of them up here if you wanted. It's still in the action menu, so it's still going to be available, and I can still remove that hold from right there. The other side of it is you'll see I have inspector is blank and inspection status is blank. But what I want to do is when I click this button, now I want an email to fire to a specific individual, employee 2, who is Maxwell Baker in my demo system. And I want him to be able to interact with that. Now, I'm not going to wire up all the things you can do here, but basically you can set it to where every user has the inspection request. But when you click that button based on security, only Maxwell Baker or whoever you determine in your security piece would only see the pass and fail buttons. So we can then control and do approvals. We can do a lot of different things in addition to what we're doing. I wanted to keep it kind of simple just so you could see just a high level flow of what's potentially possible there. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to duplicate this tab. I don't know why it's doing that. So hang on a second. Let me get back in. We're going to go back into purchase receipts. And we're going to go back into our on hold. Now we're going to go into business events. So business events, this is a powerful tool. Let me pull up the PowerPoint again. And we'll just leave it on this screen. So that is what we did, but we've accomplished a few things with workflow. So workflow, you can add or existing or custom reports to the reports menu. You can, again, like what we did, we are completely changing the out of the box behavior on a transaction screen to something that our business needs. I can update fields based on actions. And now when we use it in conjunction with business events, you're starting to get a really powerful way of interacting with Acumatica and then interacting with internal users and external customers or vendors. Our business events, we're not going to go through all of this, just a little bit, but I could send SMS text. The caveat with that is you have to have a messaging service from either Twilio or Amazon. I can set push notifications to the mobile application. I can warn customers of upcoming invoice due dates. I can notify customers using business events when their orders are ready for delivery or pickup. I can trigger to send tracking number information. I can do SLAs on cases, support cases if I need to. I can remind customers to order if they have a certain budget and haven't ordered in a certain time frame, I can write queries to then trigger those events. And internally, I could notify warehouse personnel. And this is just a scratch of the surface of what you can do with business events. So let's go in and we'll create now a new business event. And we're going to call this business event request inspection. And then I want it to be triggered when my status changes. So I need to interact with my purchase receipt screen. So I'm going to add that to my screen name. And I know it's the 302000, and you can get that by going to tools and seeing your screen ID. So your screen ID is going to be CST just means it's customized, but the last 4 segments, 8 characters is going to be the actual screen name. So let me go back and add that. I'm going to add the purchase receipt screen. And then I want to change this for every record that meets this condition. And I'm going to call this email inspector. And then I'm going to add a new trigger condition that is going to get fired when a new field change or new field value is selected. And I'm going to use my document. It's the only selection I have. And then my field name, I'm going to pick the status. So when status is changed, then I want to, in this instance, when it equals, and my value is going to be the inspection value. So when that changes, then I want to trigger this business event to send an email. And the way that I get to that email piece is I go to subscribers. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go to subscribers, and I'm going to create a subscriber for an email notification. So you can see I can create a task, I can create email notifications, I can do push, mobile push or mobile SMS. So I want to do an email. It's going to open up a new screen. And I'm going to call this inspector email. And I'm going to have it send out from my admin account. And I'm just going to have it go to my email. And we're going to first, I'm going to come down and insert a field because I'm going to use this later. So I want to come in and have my receipt number as part of my subject line. So I'm just going to add the field down here, and then I'm going to copy it and use it up in my subject line. So I'm going to just say purchase receipt. And then I'm going to mail merge that receipt number in. Is ready for inspection. And then I'm just going to copy that. And then I'm actually going to put my link to my receipt screen here. So I'm going to leave this up. So I'm going to push this over the way for just a second. I'm going to come here and I'm going to grab my URL. And now I'm going to come back into this and I'm going to paste that. And on the document number, I want to use my field and just paste that back in. So now what's going to happen is that is going to use that string as a URL to then push my actual receipt number into the URL, so I can just click on the link and it will take me into that. And once I have that, that's all I need to do. Now that is going to allow me to send an email. And if I wanted to attach a report, like the PO receiving report to this, I could do that. I'm not going to do that for this example, but again, you can layer on different things that you can interact with the business event. And I'm going to show another one that I've already prepared where I actually want to change the location of where that's going to be sent based on a query that I've written. So we can close this. And now that is active and ready to go. I'm going to hit refresh on this, and then I'm going to go back into that receipt. And we're going to fire the workflow. And hopefully if we did everything right, it's going to, when I click this button, it's going to create the email. And let's go ahead and get something fired up here. So we're going to duplicate this tab. And we're going to go into our emails. I have it turned off to where it only does it manually. So I'm going to go to emails pending process. And we'll see what's in here. So we'll see the last one that was entered was on 11/17. Yeah, so the next one that should come in is we'll just clear this. Should come in will be when the business event fires. We should get a purchase request for inspection. That's going to go to my email. So we're going to hit inspection request. And what that's going to do, it's going to fire the workflow. It's going to then open up and put the two buttons up here for the pass or fail. And it should fire that email to go to my email to notify me that I have a inspection request ready. So if I hit inspection request, now I get the two buttons now that I can interact with for fail or pass. And if I wanted to, I could have gone in and changed the color behind them to be red and green. So you would have got a visual kind of cue there of what, you know, red usually doesn't mean good. So if I hit red, then I know I'm failing. If I hit green, I know I'm passing. So you'll see it also changed the status of the receipts to inspect. So now I'm waiting for that next step. So in order to move this to either balanced or back to on hold, I have to press one of these buttons. Before I do that, I want to go over here and refresh this to see, did I get a email, which I did. You'll see down here on 8/17, I got request or receipt 1854 is now ready for inspection. And I could send that to my email. And then now I also have the link that's going to take me to that screen from my email. So that worked. That's good. And now the inspector comes in. And again, based on security, which I haven't done, I could make these buttons only visible to anyone in a specific role, and nobody else would be able to do anything. So they couldn't move this receipt to a release state until this piece happens. So I could do that with security. So I'm going to fail this just so you can see what happens. And you'll see over here, my fields are blank right now. But if I fail this, my workflow gets fired, and now my inspector gets updated and my inspection status gets updated. And we're going to leave that the way that is. And I'm going to show another piece, but in a different system of what else you could do with business events. So I'm going to go into a demo 2 environment. I'm going to go into that same receipt number. And you'll see I'm still in a failed condition. And now what I want to do is I want to go look at business events, because we've got another business event out there that is called inspection, request inspection, or it's this update PO receipt lines. So if my PO receipt lines in the receipt, if I have a status equals fail, then what I want to do is I want to update my fields in the grid lines to move those to a bonded location. So I don't want those going into my normal area that's releasable to general public for like sales orders or to fulfill, different orders that may be in the system. So what we did is we created a subscriber that's built off of a generic inquiry that does an import scenario to do an update on that line, that receipt line, to where if my inventory ID is again, if that location is not bonded and my attribute value for the inspection status is fail, I want to update all the lines in the receipt to change that to bonded. And you'll see I'm pulling those from a generic inquiry that we've written. So let me open that up. And if I go into that and I type inspect, I should see a receiving inspection generic inquiry. And this inspection inquiry is looking at my receipt lines and saying, if the status is on hold and the location ID does not equal bonded and my attribute value equals fail, then I want to go update those using that import scenario to update them. So if I run this, I should just see the one line out there, and I think we've already updated it once. So that's why it's already fired. So now I've taken it to a next step. So now I'm creating a workflow. I've created a business event that is now doing some really more complex if-then logic to go in and make edits to my data. So if I go back into my purchase receipt and I look at that purchase receipt now, you'll see my location has now been updated to bonded from, I think it was R1, S1 before. So now if I remove this hold and I receive that in the release process, that is now going to move that material into a bonded location, and the workflow tied to the business event made that happen in a more automated way, so my users don't have to interact with that. That's what I wanted to show today. I hope that really kind of opens your eyes to some of the things that are possible. I know some of you are already using a lot of this already, and you're on versions that support it now. So, if we're in process for an upgrades, let's get there, because this is going to allow you to then take advantage of the new workflow engine as well as business events. Does anyone have any questions? Let's see, I don't know if I have the ability to unmute everybody. But again, we'll make this available on our website, and an email will go out with my notes on how all of this was created. So you'll have a script that'll hopefully allow you to walk through that. Again, I highly recommend to do that in a sandbox or development or test environment, a local install of Acumatica. Flesh it out there before you move that customization package to your production environment. But it definitely opens up a lot of flexibility and power to be able to do some of the kind of notification output to your customers and even internal. So hopefully this was beneficial. And I know the next webinar, I believe, is September. Ooh, let me look. It is September. the 14th, I believe. And it will be on Acumatica using the e-commerce integration connector. So be on the lookout for that communication and get signed up if you want to see anything and everything about e-commerce. So appreciate your time and look forward to the next one. Everybody have a great rest of the week.